Yo guys, what's going on? I'm Tim. This is the Real Sports Talk. You can hit me up on Twitter at CashKelly_TRST. There's some big stuff going on in baseball. We will have the Cincinnati Reds MLB 30 teams preview for you later on in the evening. Also, go back and check out every team that we've done so far. And if your team hasn't been previewed, then you can go check those out. YouTube.com/MrKelstar. If your team has not been previewed yet, they will be sometime over the next month. Then we will be doing award previews, breaking down what each division even more in depth, what records we think they have, who we think is going to go to the playoffs. And remember, the MLB has 10 playoff teams this year, not 8. What they're going to do with that second wild card is the two wild card teams, the two teams that win the wild card in the NL and the two teams that win the wild card in the AL, they're going to play each other. The two teams in the NL and the two teams in the AL are going to play each other in a one-game playoff, and whoever wins goes on to the next round. Something that's also been taken out is that you can now play, like, let's say the Braves win that wild card, or the Marlins, or whatever. Let's say the Marlins win that wild card, they win that first game, and they go to the playoffs. If the Marlins were the 4 seed and the Phillies were the number 1 seed, the Marlins could not play the Phillies. Now they're allowed to do that because people felt that the worst team should play the lowest ranked team should play the best team in the playoffs. So the Red Sox could play the Rays, the Yankees could play the Red Sox in the first round. It really doesn't matter. You will now be able to see divisional playoff matchups in the first round of the playoffs, which I actually like that idea. And I also like the idea, just in general, that they are adding other playoff teams. And I will get to Jason Varitek in just a moment. But if you look at what the MLB has going this year, long term this might not work out because there might not be that many teams. But in the NL, I had a hell of a time picking who's going to win the NL. But in the AL, you have the Yankees, Red Sox, and Rays, the Tigers, and I mean, who knows what the Twins or somebody could do, the Angels, and also the Rangers. You got 6 teams there that I think everyone believes are playoff teams. Well, unfortunately, not all those teams can go to the playoffs. I've had to make some tough decisions on who I believe is going to go to the playoffs, so you're going to have to stay tuned, and I'm going to surprise you maybe with some of these picks that I'm going to make, especially the World Series pick that I'm going to make. I think will be pretty surprising this year. That being said, I haven't necessarily decided on it, so I don't know. Jason Varitek, then, catcher and longtime captain of the Red Sox. He's been with them since 1990. Well, he's been in the organization since 97, but really has been a full-time player since 99. He played a bit in 98 and played 1 game in 97. Great overall catcher, or very good, and that's what I want to get away from. People asking, is he a Hall of Famer? I'll get to that in a second. What he did over the course of his career was he was a solid catcher behind the plate. He was a solid hitter for a lot of years with some decent pop. Never a great overall hitter. And unfortunately, I think that he put up a great career. But I said this a very good career. And I want to make sure you guys realize it was not a great career. When they ask, is he a Hall of Famer, they don't just because you were on a winning team for a long time and you were one of the leaders on that team, you don't just go to the Hall of Fame. The only catcher that I can think of over the past 10 or 12 years who has really truly been a Hall of Famer, and you could throw Jorge Posada into that too. I said that I did not believe he was a Hall of Famer. I felt like he had some very good seasons in his career, but that the overall body of work for Posada was better than Varitek, and I did not have Posada. And it wasn't because he won more championships, it was because overall I felt like he was a better hitter, and that outweighed some of the hitting. To be an MVP, or you have to be like an MVP type player to go to the Hall of Fame consistently throughout your career. They don't just let every single player who has a nice career, wins a few rings, and has 100 or has 200, 300 home runs and bats over 285. They don't just let that. And by the way, neither of these guys, Posada and Varitek, did that throughout their career. But the only catcher I can think of over the past 10 to 12 years that has really been a Hall of Famer is Mike Piazza. And I don't really look at anyone in the game now as a Hall of Famer. Maybe Joe Mauer. I think that Joe Mauer's overrated, if I'm being quite honest with you. I think Buster Posey, if he stays as a catcher, which does not seem likely, Buster Posey could potentially be a Hall of Famer because he has what it takes. He has that combo. The thing about guys like Joe Mauer is when they're playing, you realize how good they are. But after their career, you don't, when you go back and look at the numbers, there's kind of got to be some point where you say, okay, I saw this, it was very impressive, but did the numbers meet kind of the criteria to go to the Hall of Fame? And I don't think they will with him. The thing about Buster Posey is he can hit for a high average, which Varitek and Posada really never did in their career. Posada hit 338 one year, but for the other than that, he never hit over 300. A lot of years he hit in like the 260s and 270s. You got to hit for a high average. You got to be a 25 home run guy at least, pretty much consistently, 25, 30 home runs, and you got to be a beast behind the plate. And overall, I think that Posada and Varitek, Posada isn't far off. Posada certainly, both these guys deserve to be on the ballot, and if Jorge Posada gets in, it's not going to be a travesty. I think Jorge Posada probably will get in. I just don't believe that he has the body of work overall that he should be in. But he played in New York. He was a key player in a lot of championship runs. I'll give the guy credit. I'm not trying to take away from either of these guys who both retired this offseason. They have very nice careers, but they don't just let people that had very nice careers in the Hall of Fame. And that's the point I'm trying to get across, is that when I see poll questions on ESPN that say, is he a Hall of Famer, I just look back and I say, you know when a guy's a Hall of Famer. You can really sit back and say, okay, Albert Pujols is a first ballot Hall of Famer. CC Sabathia, Roy Halladay, they're Hall of Famers. When I look at Jorge Posada and Jason Varitek, I say they had solid careers. But there's players who have had better careers that aren't in the Hall of Fame than them. Let's be honest here. There's certainly players in the game now who I think that have had better careers than him and probably will not overall get into the Hall of Fame. I mean, let's look at, I'm trying to think of some good examples. I think that someone that people never look at is Miguel Cabrera. I think he will be a Hall of Famer. Okay, I'm not coming up with anyone off the top of my head at the moment. But the point is, congratulations to Jason Varitek, tremendous career, and the same goes for Jorge Posada. I just didn't get a chance to make a video about that. A guy like Ryan Braun, pretend this whole drug thing isn't going on, because I think that he is guilty. But pretend that's not going on. He's had a really solid overall career and will finish with some really nice numbers. But he's a Hall of Famer. Unless he plays the way he did last year, every year for the next 5 or 6 years, probably not. Probably not. So I tend to think that people sometimes think, oh, I'm going to just put him in the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame is like for the best of the best. The best to ever play the game. And when I think of some of the best catchers to ever play the game, Yogi Berra, Johnny Bench, Mike Piazza, I don't put Jorge Posada and Jason Varitek into it. And I think that part of the reason people even think about that is because we have not had a ton of great catchers in the league over the past 10 to 12 years. And the one thing that both of these guys brought is they could hit and they could field. Just not necessarily at quite of a high enough level. Mike Piazza was not even a great fielder for a lot of his career, but he was just such a good hitter that I think he's the best hitting catcher of all time. I'm not trying to, especially power-wise, there's no question. Johnny Bench, certainly you can make that case. And I'm not, because I'm young, trying to disrespect history, because you guys know as much as anyone, and when I hear people say LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, as good as Michael Jordan, I jump on that. When I hear people say Eli Manning's as good as Joe Montana and Peyton Manning, I jump all over it. But in this case, I think Mike Piazza was one of the best hitting catchers overall in the history of the MLB. Probably the best power hitter for sure. And you could make a case as he was the best overall hitter. Now, the problem with all three of these guys is they were all on teams that had like drug issues. So, do I know that Jason Varitek and Mike Piazza and Jorge Posada didn't use steroids? No, but I would assume that they did, and I would assume by now they're big enough that something would have come out. Would have surprised me if any of them did, because look, the Yankees of the late 90s, a lot of them, a decent amount, you had Clemens, Pettit, a lot of guys on that team. With the Red Sox, you've had guys like Manny Ramirez and David Ortiz. With the Mets, you have the whole Kirk Randomski thing. You had Mo Vaughn, guys like that. It was all through the MLB at the time that they were playing, so it wouldn't surprise me. And you know that I am very against putting people who did use steroids in the Hall of Fame. But in this case, and I'll wrap this up right now, I think Jason Varitek, Jorge Posada had great careers, but they are now Hall of Famers. And if you think differently, give me a good. Don't just say, "Oh, you're wrong. They're Hall of Famer." Leave in the comments section below why you believe that they are both Hall of Famers, and we can go out at it for this. And remember, going at it for me, when I'm talking about sports, is not my real life. I don't go to school or whatever the next day and talk about this stuff. Going out in the comments is just debating. That's what sports talk is about. So give me your thoughts. Hit me up on Twitter at @CashKelly_TRST. Check out the Reds video later on tonight. I'll see you guys later.